Hi guys, this is the factoring one, but this one is going to be factoring with the pictures, so if you don't like this one, please find the one, if you don't like this method or prefer this method, please find the method that, the video that that Mrs. Logus did. That way you can see the algebraic method if that's what you prefer. We're going to go and get going. I would recommend, by the way, to have this chart out because I'm going to be referring to it for a few problems. Okay. So we got to factor this completely. We got to see what we can take out, GCF first. Now you can't really. There's no real way to use the area squares, those Punnett squares, for factoring here. You really just have to rely on the 9 and the 36 and look at the numbers. So for 9 and 36, I can take a 9 out of that. And when I take a 9 out of 36, I'm left with a 4. I'm going to take a negative 9 out of negative 9. I'm left with a negative 1. I'm just going to move this part over here. Let me erase this. And this computer is so much better than the other one. If you saw me with the other computer, I was really struggling. All right, now, x's. I'm looking at my x's and I see I got 2 x's and I got 5 x's. 2, 3, 4, 5. So the most I can take out are going to be these two. So I can only take 2 x's out with 3 x's left over in this term. So I can take 2 x's out. And that means that there's no more x's in the first term, so there's no x's going here, but there are 3 x's left over in the second term. For the y's, there are 3 y's here. And then there's 8 y's for that one. Holy moly guacamole, Batman. That's a y. So that's 8. And it looks like I can take out at most 3 y's. And that means that the other y's are going to be left over. So there's the y's. I'm taking out 3 y's out of both. If I take 3 y's out of here, see ya, I'm just left with 4. If I take 3 y's out of 8 y's, I'm left with 5 y's left over. So my final answer, even though it looks a little crazy, is going to be 9x squared y cubed. 9x squared y cubed. And I'm going to be left with 4 minus x cubed y to the 5th. Dunzos. All right, 21 is done. Let's go to 22. 22 says to please take out the GCF first. And I look at these terms, I don't really see a GCF that I could take out, so I'm not going to try that. Except if I look by grouping, though. So grouping, I want to see 4 terms. Grouping will be done when you see 4 terms. So this I can make the box for. Looks like I got an xy and a minus 2xz. And it looks like I got a positive 5y and a minus 10z. And let's see what we can take out of this one. X's. Looks like we can take out an x. And we're left with a y in this box. If I take an x out of here, I'm left with a minus 2z. Now over here, I could take out a plus 5, it looks like, because I'm looking at these numbers here. A positive 5 and a negative 10. The GCF is a positive 5, so I could take out a positive 5 here. And when I do, I'm going to multiply these back in and make sure I get it right. A positive 5 times a y is a positive 5y. A positive 5 times a negative 2z is a negative 10z. Got it. So this is equal to x plus 5. And then times y minus 2z. Okay, that's 2 down. Let's keep going. 23. So here's where we're going to start to need our sheet by us, because now we have a trinomial. There are 3 terms here, and we have a quadratic. So we're going to need to do some work here. If you're not sure, here's the tips for you that you should use. You should factor out the GCF, even if the GCF is 1. And then after that, you can go ahead and see is the result a quadratic trinomial, and it will be a quadratic trinomial. Squared term, 3 terms. And if a equals 1, we want to try to factor, but we don't need to split the middle or do grouping. So let's see what we got. Okay, I love Mr. Foster's method for this, and he says take that number, and he says to, no, come on. There we go. And he says, okay, I need 2 numbers that multiply together to get 24. And I need those same two numbers to multiply together to get to add together to get negative 10. So what two numbers multiply together to get a positive 24 and add to negative 10? And the way I can figure that out is I'm going to go on and list the factors of 24. 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. And it looks like these two actually are the candidates. But only one of those pairs will actually get us a positive 24 when I multiply them and get us a negative 10. I'm leaning towards this one because a negative 4 and a negative 6, when I multiply those together, I do get a positive 24. When I get a minus 4 and a minus 6, I do get a negative 10. So it's going to be this one, and my answer. There you go. In my class, you guys did really well with the this value of x squared with no number in front of it. You guys did really well with factoring those. So practice those again so you can get that confidence back up if you forgot how to do that. 24, 3x squared plus 7x plus 60. So if you haven't thought about it, please do first. And it looks like we are going to get, let's see here. Looks like we should factor out the GCF. And after you factor out the GCF, let's see what we get. 3x squared plus 9x plus 20. Now I didn't explain this step, but when I looked at 3, 27, and 60, I thought about it a little bit and I realized each one of those numbers is divisible by 3. So I divided a 3 out of every single one. And in case you're not sure, there is a 1x squared here. Now, I'm going to bring down my 3 here. I'm going to fill in some parentheses there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm looking inside, and I'm looking at that 20, and I'm thinking what two numbers, this is Mr. Foster way, are going to multiply together to get a positive 20, and what two numbers are going to add together to get a positive 9. Now, that means I need to list the factors of 20. So let's see, 20 is going to be 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, and there's our winner. Positive 4 and a positive 5 works for both. When I multiply positive 4 and positive 5, I get positive 20. When I add them, I get a positive 9, so that's perfect. Which means my final answer is x plus 4 and x plus 5. There we go. That's 24. We got 4 more to go. Here we go. 25. Ooh, there is no... Oh, I love this problem. I love it. I love it. There's no actual, like... This number in front of x squared is 1. I love when that value in front of x squared is not 1. This makes my life easier. It just makes it completely easier. And when this number in front of x squared is 1, I love it. 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 So, our result here, when we factor out 1 out of the GCF, I still get that quadratic and a trinomial. So now I'm going to go and look at the factors of 20. So factors of 20 are going to be, I think we did this already, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. And I need two factors that multiply together to get a positive 20 out. And I need those same two factors to add together to get a negative 10. Now, let's see here. Those can't get 10 when I add them up. 2 and 10 can't get 10 when I add them up. 4 and 5 can't get 10 when I add them up, which means can't factor. If you want to be fancy, you could say that this quadratic is prime. We cannot factor anything out of that quadratic. Love when they're prime, because it saves a lot of work. All right, here's the toughies. 26, 27, and 28. We're in the home stretch now, so 26. Let's see what we can do with this one. It says take out the GCF first. 6, 17, and 12. Not really much I can do to take anything out of there. So, I took out the GCF. It was 1. Nothing really happened. A is not equal to 1. And if you're not sure what A is, I'll tell you. A is equal to 6. B is equal to negative 17. And C equals 12. A is always a coefficient of x squared. B is, or y squared. B is always a coefficient of y. And C is always a constant. In case you weren't sure. So, when A is not equal to 1, and A is not 1 here, I need to follow these steps. And the first step says to find the product of A and C. So I need to multiply A times C, which is 6 times 12, which is 72, or positive 72. And then what I need to do next is find two factors of 72 that add or subtract to negative 17. So I need two numbers that get me the 72 positive, but then I also need two numbers that are going to add to get to negative 70, to get to a negative 17. Well, that means I need a factor of 72, so let's do that. 72 is 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, not really at 17 yet, 4 and 18, and 6 and 12, nope. And it looks like 9 and 8 will be the helpful ones here. So if I need a negative 17, I need a negative 8 and a negative 9. But I'll need a negative 8 times a negative 9 here, so that's perfect, that fits. And then the next step is to rewrite the quadratic equation with your ax squared and your c. But in these spots, you're going to fill something in with an x and an x, but put the number in front of each one, and the number is here. So we're going to rewrite this. And we got 6y squared. And then we got minus 8y. And then minus 9y. And then our constant is 12. Or plus 12. So minus 9y plus 12. And this is where the Punnett square is going to come in handy. Because what you can do is you can rearrange this as a 6y squared. We can do a minus 8y. We can do a minus 9y. We can do a positive 12. And let's see what we get out for each one. 6y squared and negative 8y, that's a 2y I can take out. 6 and negative 8, those are even, so I can take a 2 out. And I can take a y out of each one, so that's a y. Here, it looks like I take out a 3. I'm going to take out a negative 3, though. And when I do that, I end up getting out, so 6y squared divided by 2y is 3y. Negative 8y. Negative 8 divided by 2 is a negative 4. And a y and divided by y is just 1. I'm going to check the rest. Negative 3 times 3y is negative 9y. That's perfect. Negative 3 times negative 4 is a positive 12. Yes! So my final answer is 2y minus 3 times 3y minus 4. Ooh, that's a killer. Alright, let's do the next one, 28. Oh, gosh. Alright, well, let's factor the GCF out. They're all even. And it looks like they're all divisible by 2. So let's take the 2 out. 8 divided by 2 is 4x squared. 24 divided by 2, negative 24 divided by 2 is negative 12x. And 18 divided by 2 is plus 9. Okay, now I got a trinomial that's quadratic. So let's see what the instructions say. Oh, and a is not equal to 1. Oh, man. A is equal to 4. B equals negative 12. And C equals a positive 9. A is always the coefficient of x squared. B is always the coefficient of x. And C is always the constant. So now I just need to follow these instructions. I got to multiply A times C together. So A times C is equal to 4 times 9, which is equal to a positive 36. Now I need to find two factors of this, 36, that add or subtract to B. So let's do some work here, and let's see. I need two numbers that multiply together to get a positive 36. And I need those same two numbers to combine to get a negative 12, which means I need to list my factors of 36. So my factors of 36 are 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, and I could use a calculator for this. I didn't say that in the last part, but calculator for this would be fine. And 4 and 9, and 6 and 6. Hey, it looks like 6 and 6 is a winner, because that could get me negative 12. And if you're not sure, you're just guessing. 1 and 36 couldn't get you 12 when you add them up. Same with 2 and 18. That doesn't get you 12 when you add them up. Nor does 3 and 12. I'm sorry, 2 and 18, nor does 3 and 12, or 4 and 9. Only 6 and 6 gets you 12. A negative 6 times a negative 6 also gets you a positive 36, so that's perfect. So now, we're going to rewrite the quadratic equation as 4x squared, because that stays. We're going to do minus 6x. We're going to do another minus 6x. And then that last term stayed, and I think it was a positive 9. Okay, let's make our area square, and we'll go on and fill everything in. So here's your square. We got a 4x squared. We got a minus 6x. We got another minus 6x. We have plus 9. In the top row, it looks like 4 and 6 are even, so I could take a 2 out of each one of those. If x's, I have 2 x's, but 1x here, only 1x here, so the most I could take out is 1x. The result, 4 divided by 2 is 2. I think it is. It's 2. So we got a 2. X squared divided by x is 1x. Negative 6 divided by 2 is a negative 3, and x divided by x is nothing. Now, this last part, negative 6x plus 9, I need to see what comes out of negative 6 and 9. I think they're both 3, but I'm going to take out a negative 3. And now let's check to see if I got the right answer. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. And I'm always going to check my answer to make sure it multiplies out to what I want. So my final answer here is going to be 2x minus 3, parentheses 2x minus 3. And now here's the thing that's going to kill you. Not only is it that, it is also, you see this? You see this? I knew we would miss that. We would also, it's tricky. We need that too. That GCF that we took out first needs to be included in our answer. So I'm going to put a 2 here, and now I'm good. And now we are on our last one. Alright, well, I know I got to take out that GCF. There is no GCF of 4 and 25 that I'm aware of, except for 1. So I can only take out an x. 1x if you want. 4 divided by 1 is 4. Negative 25 divided by 1 is negative 25. X cubed divided by x is x squared. And I took in the only x out that I had, so this is what I'm left over with. Okay, so my result, after I took out that GCF, a is not equal to 1, man. Shoot! So a is equal to 4. It looks like b doesn't even exist, because b is always the coefficient of an x term, and there is no x here. And my constant term is negative 25. Alright, looks like I'm doing this method again. So here we're going to have the product of a and c. 4 times negative 25, which is negative 100. Ay, 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 ay. Now I'm going to save myself some work here. Here's how. I need the factors of a and c to add up to b. So I need, looks like we got 1 and 100. We got 2 and 50. We got 4 and 25. We have 5 and 20. We have 10 and 10. And I need them to add up to 0. So something times something is equal to negative 100. And something times something plus something, this equals 0. And that's how I know it's 10. Because the only way I can get 0 is I subtract the one thing from the other. So let's do a negative 10 plus 10. Negative 10 times 10 gets us negative 100, so we're good there. And now we rewrite. So ignoring that x on the outside, we won't forget about it though. We're going to put a 4x squared Looks like we're going to do a plus 10x or a minus 10x, either one, and then a minus 10x here, and then a minus 25. Again, the minus 25 came from here, and the 4x squared came from there as well. Okay, so now, let's factor by grouping, man. So we got 4x squared plus 10x minus 10x minus 25. Let's go and draw our box. So here's 4x squared. Here's plus 10x. Here's minus 10x. Here's minus 25. And what can I take out of the top two? Well, it looks like they're both divisible by 2, so I can take a 2 and an x. And what's left over when I divide it is a 2x here. And I'm left with a plus 5 because positive 10 divided by 2 is a positive 5. And an x divided by an x is nothing. And at the bottom I got negative 10x minus 25, so I can go and take out a negative for sure. So let's take a negative out. And then they're both divisible by 5, I believe. And let's check to make sure this works. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x. Negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. That is perfect. So my final answer is freeze. I need that x. I need this x right here. So let's go and take an x out first. X parentheses 2x plus 5 and 2x minus 5. And guys, good work on this. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped.